1. Garrett, what poem did you read next?
Uh, Next, I read Red Dust by Yusef Komunyakaa. And when I first looked at the title, I saw, well, knowing Yusef Komunyakaa, from doing background on him, he lived in Vietnam for a while, and he um, worked to write for like just about the Vietnam War. And so when I first saw the title, I was like, well, Red Dust. Well, in the Vietnam War, there was a lot of bloodshed, and so I thought, well, maybe stained dirt or dried stained dirt by the blood of fallen soldiers, and just the dust just moved around because all the soldiers that were never found and never brought home, maybe just vanished and just floated around. And then we get in the poem, and it starts out with gargoyled angels, and that's very ironic. Especially, it's very, I found a very weird way to start out the poem. And looking it up, I didn't really know what to expect. Maybe like like a gargoyle is like stone, and then angels have wings and they're able to fly, but stone stays in the same spot, and it's like heavy and it's carried down. It's ironic, and it says they ride on the backs of black men who hurl their bodies on exploding grenades. So, Yusuf Komunyakaa was sort of like very. They said it was very racial, sexist.
Didn't he grow up in the civil rights movement?
And he grew up in the civil rights.
And and when I looked it up, like gargoyles were like they represented evil, but they also were used by the Catholic Church to ward off evil. So it was kind of like, I thought anyway, of like the black soldiers and how they were condescended in the military, and like they were normally the people that were on the front lines, but they were also useful because they were the ones who protected the soldiers. So it was kind of like the double-edged sword of how the black soldiers were treated and how useful they were in the war too.
Right. And it says, I don't know, but this is what I picked up, is that maybe the black, like using black men, maybe the black men were, like they sacrificed themselves first and before the white men just to in the war.
That would tie into like the angels, the use of angels, because when you think about it, like sacrificing yourselves gives you like images of biblical times and like Jesus and angels and everything like that. So that connect too.
Right. And then on to the second stanza. Go straight from exploding grenades who vaporize into unquestioned mist and syllables of names. So like they fall onto the grenades, the exploding grenades, and they vaporize or like explode into tons of bits and pieces and just become red dust. Sort of goes back to the title, and just are never like discovered again.
And maybe it's like they're never remembered too, because when you think of like dust, it's like slowly going away in the wind, and a lot of the times like a lot of the soldiers weren't recognized in the Vietnam War. I think weren't like the black soldiers not given like proper title. I'm not too sure about that, but
that could be something. And a lot of soldiers that were lost never found their dog tags and never found where they were, and men that sacrificed their lives for the United States in a battle that, I mean, really wasn't necessary. Who rise like curses and prayers entwined in broken earth. So more other than some of them maybe curse, some of them carried, that rise up and go with these angels from the first stanza, maybe.
And like it kind of like makes you think of like ghosts, and also like when you think of it like the broken earth. So maybe it's like his statement about like wartime and how all these people die and they're not dying in the way that they would like to, so they rise up like a curse. So
right, and the entwined earth, they all entwine in the broken earth, so they all become part of the earth, maybe. And dust is an element of the earth, like dirt and dust. And fall into smoky red cerecloth. And when I first saw cerecloth, I had no idea what it was. And I looked it up, and it's like a wax cloth, typically used for wrapping a corpse. So like maybe and some of them like they fall and die, and then they become like people come and pick them up and use the cloth to like wrap them up as like their.
Yeah, maybe it's like acting like the earth is used as a cerecloth. So.
And then an answer was around wounded branches. So there was tons of like the nature just got destroyed when it just came straight through and just took everything out, and an answer is lost in these wounded branches, maybe.
And also, since the soldiers are being compared to the earth, maybe like the wounded branches are like how the soldiers were wounded and how they become kind of like part of the earth again.
Mm-hmm. And then it kind of goes into, there's a fulcrum where it changes from a more negative, like warlike tone into a, after fragments of bone settle on leaves and birds reclaim their songs, the world moves again. Someone speaks and the army ants go to work. It's sort of like conclusion, wraps up sort of like fragments of bone, all the guys, or all the men that died on these exploding grenades, all settle like on the earth, on the leaves that are on the ground, and the birds that were quiet because of all the noise in the war sort of reestablish what they were used to, and the world begins to move again because everybody was so still during the war and everybody was so in shock with what was happening.
Yeah, and that part's positive, and then all of a sudden at the end it'll say like again like the army ants will move again. Like there will be another war besides
there might
this
be
one.
if somebody does something, then there might be something else that the army might just go into action again, whether it's for a certain reason or whether it's just because somebody did something somebody didn't like.
Yeah.
So, right, cool.
Woo.